case, Mr. Salman Taseer's trial, and mind you, he is not accused of having committed blasphemy. Let me make that absolutely clear. His trial of his murder, where a person has confessed to murder, is being held in the premises of the jail. It was difficult for the government to get a public prosecutor, and a number of people have been killed. My own client once was killed while he was standing outside the court. People have been killed inside the jails. Nothing has happened, no inquiry has been held. There are judges who have refused to take these cases on. So if you talk about a democratic system, well, there is a democratic system, but they are too scared and they are too fragile. They did not own up, and they did not even act swiftly at the assassination of their own governor. So because at this point of time, this law is being, I am sorry to say, misused by those people who have an agenda of putting people under fear of persecuting not only religious minorities but also Muslims who think differently, have a different ideological, political ideology to them. Not that people who think differently want to, God forbid, disrespect the Holy Prophet. That is not the case, and that is not the issue in our country. Nobody is doing it in those numbers. Most of the cases, if you look at them, they themselves tell you that people who eventually go to court, if they are not murdered, are acquitted. But what do they go through? They go through periods of fear, and their families have to move, and some of them are just end up either leaving the country. Most of them who have been acquitted have not been able to stay in this country.
Okay, we've just received an email on this particular subject. This email comes from Manur Bari, who writes to us from Pakistan. Amjad Wahid, this email is addressed to you. And Manur Bari writes, the blasphemy law seems unnecessary in a country with a 98% Muslim population. It is clearly there to discriminate against minorities and secular thinkers and creates the atmosphere of a police state in Pakistan. Amjad Wahid, do you want to respond to that?
I have already discussed about this issue, that it is an issue related to the minorities. Statistics justify this, while the condition of the democratic development in Pakistan and condition of the independence of the judiciary, we cannot make the murder of some dignitary as an evidence against this. We have murders of dignitaries in America. We have the murder of Kennedy, the President of America. It doesn't mean that there was no development, democratic development in United States, and there was no independent judiciary in United States. As a nation, we are very optimistic. We are on right track now. We are on the way of democracy. We are on the way of an independent judiciary, and it isn't possible to discriminate the minorities in the presence of independent judiciary and a democratic government.
Shabana, we've been hearing there about an independent judiciary in Pakistan, also about democracy in Pakistan. How do you feel when you see and hear that people have actually been celebrating your father's death in Pakistan?
Obviously it came as a huge shock to me. It's never easy to see. It wasn't easy to see that. But I think something that really shook me was that there were so many lawyers celebrating this murder and celebrating the fact that this man had taken the law into his own hands. So that kind of went against their very profession, I thought. But these men, and I've written about this, these men are supposed to be the vanguards of justice in Pakistan. So if they take these kinds of stands and if they behave like this, then I really worry that, I worry about just how free the judiciary is.
Asma Jahangar was received...
And
okay,
whether extremism has... Sorry. No, it's okay.
Okay. Asma Jahangar, we just received another email here. This is from Abdullah Khan. He sent us this email via Facebook, and he writes, the blasphemy law is clearly stated in the Quran. It can never be removed from the Constitution, but only needs to be implemented properly. How would you respond to that?
Well, yes. I don't know that I'm not an Islamic scholar, but I have heard Islamic scholars also differ about this. I am a lawyer. And let me tell you that this law was only made in 1986. So before that, we did not have this law. And secondly, when people were talking about misuse of it, for example, the government, the present government, never even talked, never addressed vaguely, directly or indirectly, the repeal of it. What was slightly touched upon was to alter it so that misuse is stopped. But there were people on the street saying, no, you cannot even change the misuse. The message is, we can kill whom we like on the pretext of this law. We can intimidate whom we like, carrying this law with us, and you can do nothing about it. The parliament can do nothing about it. Once you've made it, that's it. And that is why when I was a UN rapporteur on freedom of religion or belief, I used to constantly write that once you make a law in the name of religion, and this has happened even in the mature democracies, it's very difficult to change it. And secondly, wherever these laws have existed, there has been tension rather than harmony.
You say it's very difficult to change it. Attempts have been made. We have a Pakistani member of parliament, Sherry Rehman, who tried to get this law reformed. She's subsequently dropped her efforts to get this law changed after she was threatened herself. So do you think the law is going to stay the same way on the statute books in Pakistan as it is, or do you have any hope that it might be changed in the future? I mean, one of the things that people are looking at is perhaps leaving the law as it is on the statute books, but then putting in amendments that would make it difficult to abuse the law.
No, I think that there's something will have to be done so that the law is not abused. And once this climate which has been built, I think, and pre-planned and done for political reason as well, when this climate subsides, people will begin to see the sense of it. And one day when, God forbid, somebody is arrested under this law for completely distorted version of it, and that person happens to be from more conservative side of politics, then I think the penny will drop.
Shabana, do you think that the death of your father will make it more difficult for people to campaign against this law? I mean, we're seeing so many threats against people like Sherry Rehman who try to get this law changed.
There were previous attempts too. In 2005, Musharraf tried to water down the law as well. And you know, he gave in to right-wing pressure. I think that my father's assassination has definitely left, I mean, there's an atmosphere of fear in Pakistan now, but I feel that as Pakistanis, we don't have that luxury anymore. We don't have that choice of staying silent and being scared. I think that it's, you know, the buck stops here. And, you know, we have to think about where we want Pakistan to go from now, and if we're going to just hand it over to the extremists so easily by being scared and staying silent.
Amjad Waheed, is it likely that this law and the murder of Salman Taseer will polarize Pakistani society, will create bigger divisions, especially between conservatives, the religious conservatives on the one side, and liberals on the other?